Test. How about now? Can you hear me now? Everything's a mess. Can you hear me now? Hello, hello, hello. Hello, can you hear me? Test, test, test. What's going on? No? No? That's weird. Okay, we're good. Sorry about that. We're on like a 20-second lag, so I see the comment. Okay, sorry about that. So let me start over. So I'm in an unusual environment. This is the marital home which we are selling, and while I live in Cape Canaveral, I had to come down here to get the marital home sold. So I'm here for about a week. So next Sunday, I'll probably also be in roughly this location, maybe not this room. Um, so I'm not. I had three showings of the house this morning, so I'm a little bit caught up in trying to show the house and less caught up in everything. But I've been following obviously all the news with Tesla and everything over the last and Twitter. Twitter seems to be um, dominating the news, and I'm just going to talk about that first. We're going to talk about Tesla. We're going to talk about SpaceX. We're going to talk about everything else. But Twitter is really dominating the news, and this is insane. Elon, you have, I'm going to call it the radical left, which unfortunately the radical left includes the president of the United States, the mainstream of the Democratic Party, a lot of their talking heads. When Elon announced he was going to buy Twitter, they were opposed to him buying Twitter. When he decided he was going to try not to buy Twitter, they said he had to buy Twitter. Now that he went ahead and bought Twitter, now they're upset that he owns Twitter. Like, could you guys just make up your mind what you want? So and now they're like something bad. Somebody's account gets suspended on Twitter, and somehow it's Elon's fault when they just took over the company like 5 days ago, and somehow they think Elon. Like, I love how like AOC and a couple other people are like, "Oh, Elon's tampering with my account because I criticized Elon." Like, do you read Twitter at all? He's getting criticized all over the place. They're not suspending every account that criticizes Elon. There's like, oh, thank you, Sevilla. There, the extent of the hate for Elon is I'm all fancy pants. So the extent of the hate for Elon at this point is off the charts. There's this really weird thing where there's this supposedly an advertiser boycott of um of Twitter, and Disney was supposedly included on the advertiser boycott, but I was looking on Twitter today and there was an ad for Disney. Like Walt Disney World had an ad. So they got to work on their not boycott, they were like suspending their advertising pending review of what Twitter was going to be like. And I just want to start off with this because I tweeted this earlier today. There's this notion from the radical left, from the Democratic Party, whatever. There's this massive anti-free speech movement. The Democratic Party has become the anti-free speech. It's just shocking to me because historically the Republicans were critical of some areas of free speech. They were anti-pornography, for example. Um, and now all of a sudden the Republicans are the free speech party and the Democrats are the anti-speech party. And it's really kind of surprising and borderline shocking that the Democratic Party is anti-free speech. And people are, well, we just don't like hate speech. Well, if you go back to 1977, the ACLU, which is a liberal, left-wing Democrat group, Jewish lawyers at the ACLU defended the rights of Nazis to march to protect their free speech rights. Jewish lawyers from the ACLU defended the rights of Nazis to speak. That's what it is when you believe in free speech. You defend the right of people to say things who you don't agree with, who are saying things that are offensive. If you don't believe in free speech, what you believe is government should control, or corporations apparently should control what can be said. And that's a terrible world. And the fact that there are occasional nutty people who will say offensive things is one of the things that you live with when you live in a free country. When you live in a free country, people can say things you won't like, and you strap on a pair and you deal with it. And if you're LGBTQ plus and you're somehow afraid that Donald Trump is going to say that Caitlyn Jenner can use whichever bathroom in his building that she wants to use, and somehow that's offensive to you, uh, grow a pair or don't grow a pair. Maybe growing a pair is a wrong analogy here. Just accept the fact, if Jews can defend the right of Nazis to march, then you probably should be defending the rights of people to say things you don't like, because in the past they tried to stop people like you from saying the things you wanted to say. That's what free speech is. So Elon has a lot of ideas of what he wants to do with Twitter to make Twitter better. People are freaking out. Remove a pair. People are freaking out about Elon charging, proposing Twitter to charge $8 a month for a blue check mark. It's like, what do you pay for Amazon Prime and Netflix and Disney Plus? Like $8 a month. Like, I don't know. I spend a lot more time on Twitter than I spend on anything else. I mean, I spend a fair amount of time on YouTube, and I pay for YouTube Premium, which costs more than $8 a month. So what is this freak out about $8 a month? And it's typically, AOC is selling T-shirts for $58, and she's whining about Elon charging $8 a month for Twitter for the blue check mark. So there's so much insanity. There's so many crazy things going on. Was it Robert Reich today? He tweeted something about inflation is caused by corporate greed. This is an example of the insanity of the radical left. Okay, I'm going to put Robert Reich. Robert Reich was in the administration. I don't know if he was in the Obama administration, the Clinton administration. It sort of used to be a mainstream. I think he still is. It's arguably a mainstream Democrat. And he says inflation isn't caused by government spending. It's caused by corporate greed. Well, it's interesting because we have corporate greed all the time. I don't agree with the corporate greed concept in the first place, by the way, because corporations aren't really people. Corporations don't have emotions. The people in corporations might be greedy. The people in government might also be greedy. The people in your home, you personally might be greedy. Corporations aren't inherently greedy. They tend to be, maximizing profit, which is what they're supposed to do. But if corporate greed explained inflation, then why does inflation go up and down? Does corporate greed go up and down? Does corporate greed vary? That sometimes there's more corporate greed and sometimes is corporate greed higher when Joe Biden is president than it was when Donald Trump was president? I don't know. We need that's right. Bots should be able to vote. Once bots have AI, we should get bots the right to vote, and then Elon can manufacture a lot of bots, and then he can control the elections. He has some interesting ideas about how to make Twitter a better platform. Apparently, he's going to allow long form video on Twitter. And if that happens, there's a decent chance that I will start doing long form video on Twitter rather than on YouTube, or maybe along with YouTube. I don't know what's going to happen with that. We'll see. I think that's several months away. It may be that Twitter becomes a better platform. And I can say personally, like, I'm not comfortable with YouTube as a platform because, like, what we're talking about now, YouTube could censor it. I don't think I've said anything that would, I guess grow a pair might be censored, right? So it's just, odd that so many people are so freaking out. Yeah, Bernie Sanders is greedy. The radical left is bashing Elon. And there's this really interesting tidbit from the Twitter story and Sawyer Merritt confirmed this, and the guy, there's a JP Rich or something like that. Some Twitter accounts have confirmed this, that they applied for verification. I applied for verification and I got denied. How did I get denied? Like, am I not a real person? I have a Wikipedia page. I gave you my credit card. I gave you my driver's license, and I still didn't get verified. Like, I have, I don't know, close to 40,000 followers. At the time, I had, say, 30,000 followers or 25,000 followers. There's accounts with less than 1,000 followers that are verified. And I, gave you my credit card. I gave you my driver's license. I gave you whatever you needed, and I didn't get verified. And apparently, in some cases, people got contacted, including Sawyer Merritt, and they were offered that they could pay, I think Sawyer said $16,000 in order to get the blue check mark. So what's going on there is Twitter wasn't doing verification in order to verify that you're real. Twitter was doing verification in order to be able to extort money from people. So greedy Twitter employees were abusing the system in order to be able to make money for themselves privately in order to hand out verification. And that is going to probably blow up in some people's faces. And some people might even go to jail for that, because that sounds like you're stealing from the company. I think those people might not get their severance packages. So Third Reich, not Third Reich, Third Reich, Robert Third Reich. Um, but yeah, the endless stream of Elon hate, and why are you? Why don't you just delete your account? I mean, all you have to do is delete your account. And Elon's like, fine, you can attack me here on Twitter and just pay the $8. Really going to be interesting what's coming. I believe we're going to pay $8, and then people who have paid the $8 and have the blue check marks, that our tweets will be prioritized over people's tweets who haven't paid. So you'll see more tweets from people with blue check marks than you do with people who don't. And that this, in theory, will minimize the value of one of the big purposes of this is to minimize the value of creating bot accounts. I think Elon's going to go to war on the bot accounts, and you're going to see a lot of different tricks to diminish the ability of people to create fake accounts that lower the quality of the experience on Twitter. I mean, fundamentally, I get, I don't know, 5 or 10 DMs a day from fake accounts. So it would be nice to see that. Yes, I have a Wikipedia. I was the Libertarian candidate for governor of New York in 2010, so I have a Wikipedia page probably from that. Not all true, by the way. There's some stuff on there that's a little misleading on the Wikipedia page, but go at it, have fun, tell me why I'm a, whatever you want to say. Elon is the holy hand grenade, sure. So, I wanted to the other big thing. I think the big thing that's probably worth talking. Let's step aside from Twitter for a second. I think there's a lot to talk about with Twitter, and we'll probably get back into it with the chat. Elon just had an interview with Ron Barron. Ron Barron is one of the largest investors in both Tesla and SpaceX, other than Elon, of course, and maybe Larry Ellison. Ron Barron is a large investor in Tesla. I believe he's also a large investor in SpaceX. And Ron Barron interviewed him for an extended interview, and there's a lot of good stuff in there, but it still seems like Elon is targeting, they're hoping to be at a 40,000 vehicle a week run rate by the end of this year. It sounded like he's probably acknowledging that's not going to happen, but they're still shooting for it. If they get to 40,000 a week by the end of the year, that's a 2 million a year run rate. And if they're at a 2 million a year run rate at the end of this year, then you can be pretty confident they're going to produce more than 2 million vehicles next year, because 50% growth, they should be at a 3 million a year run rate at the end of next year. So you would say 2.5 million, but because the curve is all that convex, concave, whatever, because the curve is sloping this way, you wouldn't get 2.5 million. You might get 2.2 or 2.3 million vehicles for the year. I have the ability to correct my Wikipedia page, but somebody else can undo my corrections. It's not my Wikipedia page. It's a Wikipedia page about me. Evan says, what are you more excited for, Warren, the Cybertruck or the sub 30,000 platform reveal? Well, I personally have an order in for the Cybertruck, so I am personally more excited for a Cybertruck. As a shareholder, I think I don't think it's a sub $30,000 platform. I think the robotaxi platform, the robotaxi vehicle platform, is going to be bigger than anything else for the company in the short to medium run. I mean, that and along with the robotaxi software, because they said that they're going to make more of that vehicle than they make all other vehicles. So if you figure by the end of next year, they're making 3 million vehicles a year, then they're planning on making at least 3 million vehicles a year of this new robotaxi vehicle. And my guess is it might end up being like 5 or 6 million a year of that vehicle. I think that vehicle is going to be tremendously useful. The market for it's going to be huge. I think it's going to be more than one vehicle. I think it's a platform that will allow for a 4-passenger vehicle or 4 or 5-passenger vehicle. It said it was going to be smaller than a Model 3. So I'm thinking it's a 4-passenger vehicle that's fairly small. But I wouldn't be surprised if they build like some sort of cargo van, minivan, 8-seater version of it for the future. I'm much more excited about it as a robo-taxi vehicle than I am to see it as a driven vehicle, a human-driven vehicle. So that's the real game changer. Josh Best says, I can pay $8 a month and imitate anyone with a blue checkmark account. Well, you can imitate people with a blue checkmark account, but depending on how you do it, you might get your account suspended and lose your $8. So that's a game you can play if you want to. But if you spend your $8 and then create a fake account, first of all, people are creating fake accounts anyway. People are changing their names. They're creating fake accounts anyway. But now it's going to cost you $8 a month to have your fake account if you're going to do that. So People are like, well, that's not going to change bot behavior. Of course, it's going to change bot behavior. People don't understand the way the bot behavior works is if it's basically zero cost to create a bot account, then the people who run bot farms will create as many bots as they can, and they will. And if it generates only a tiny benefit, but it costs zero, then they're going to keep doing it. If you raise the cost of having meaningful bot accounts to $8 a month, then all of a sudden you have to generate significant value from your bot account. And they're not going to generate that much value, so it's going to really drive down the effectiveness of the bot accounts. So I don't think that the robo-taxi vehicle will cannibalize existing Tesla sales. I think fundamentally that vehicle is going to be designed to be used in fleets for robo-taxis. It's not going to be designed to take sales away from Model Y or Model 3. Keep in mind, like S and X are irrelevant because S and X are much higher end and S and X are small volume. Cybertruck is a totally different use case than this robo-taxi vehicle. Maybe there's going to be a human-driven version of the robo-taxi platform vehicle, but ultimately the real question is, are they going to deliver genuine self-driving software in advance of this vehicle or when this vehicle comes out? Because if this vehicle, I think they're probably talking about production and maybe first deliveries in late 2024. We're in late 2022 now. I think that Elon believes, and I think a lot of people on the Tesla team believe that they're going to have the robotaxi network live in 2024, if not late 2023. So, um, that I think the purpose of that vehicle is to replace Uber. I don't think it's to replace you owning your own car. I do think that once Lido says, my concern is that by the time I can buy my Cybertruck, it'll be over $100,000. I think the quad motor Cybertruck is going to be $100,000 or more. I think that once they get through the ramp of Cybertruck, I think their manufacturing costs are going to be really low. Battery pack's going to be expensive. It's going to take a couple years to get battery pack costs down, and the battery pack on a quad motor is going to be large. The battery pack, even on a tri-motor, on a dual motor, let's say you're going for 300 miles of range. At best, you're going to get 3 miles a kilowatt hour, so you're going to need at least a 100 kilowatt hour pack in a Cybertruck. Now, maybe they can do Cybertruck 120 kilowatt hour pack with lithium iron phosphate because there's a lot of room under Cybertruck and it can deal with the weight. So maybe but I think the dual motor is probably going to be around $70,000 or $80,000. And over time, as they're able to get their costs down and is able to increase their volume of production, they're probably going to bring pricing down a little bit. I don't think the dual motor is ever going to get down to the $50,000 price point, but 60 or 70,000 quad motor for 100 grand. Melody says, in all honesty, who wants FSD on Cybertruck? That's a vehicle that needs to be driven. No, I disagree with you. Cybertruck is going to be hugely valuable in a robotaxi world. I think the robotaxi world is going to change to a world where, think about people who drive pickup trucks now. Let's say it's a contractor who goes to a job site and he drives his pickup and he brings his pickup there and he operates, he uses the pickup for stuff, or he has a cargo van. Now that guy gets a cargo trailer. And Cybertruck tows his trailer from place to place. And then once it drops his trailer off at the job site, Cybertruck leaves and does another towing job. So instead of Cybertruck sitting still for 20 hours a day and driving around 3-4 hours a day, Cybertruck's going to be active 16, 18 hours a day, moving stuff, towing things. So Cybertruck is really, really important in a robotaxi world for doing a lot of towing. I'm not spotting you for your Cybertruck. GMC Sierra electric vehicle has a 130 kilowatt hour battery. Yeah. The float of the Cybertruck will be limited based on the weight of the vehicle. At least it doesn't need a forwarding kit. I don't know about that. Okay, so I think this robo-taxi vehicle is going to be really, really important. I'm actually going to be making a video about this. This coming week, I expect to make a video about this. I want to talk about the key advantage that Tesla's FSD robotaxi setup has versus, say, Waymo and Cruise. And this is something I feel like a lot of people don't get. The really, really significant thing about Tesla's FSD and, the robotaxi future, the thing that people really don't get there's two big things. So the big advantage number one is they're going to get there first because they're generating a crazy amount of data and they have a crazy amount of machine learning compute in the home office between the existing NVIDIA GPU clusters and with Dojo coming, massive amount of compute so they can train the the machine learning chips. They can train the AI to drive, and that's going to happen faster and faster as they generate more data and have more compute. That's one. But the really big driver, the real reason why Tesla wins in a robotaxi world is cost per mile. When you have Waymo and Cruise making a small volume of vehicles that are very expensive. So you figure a Waymo vehicle is probably like 200 grand. But you take the base vehicle and then you got to modify it and you're doing it in small volumes. So your costs are really high on a per unit basis. Now, when you operate this vehicle, let's say the vehicle is going to last for 200,000 miles and it costs you $200,000. You're already at $1 a mile just on amortizing the vehicle. And then it's using gasoline and then it needs a lot of maintenance and it needs a lot of other stuff. So your cost per mile of operating a Waymo or a Cruise vehicle is probably in the ballpark of $2 a mile. The cost of a Tesla operating with robotaxi software, to Tesla, just to be clear, to Tesla. If Tesla builds its own robotaxi and runs it in its own fleet with its own FSD software, it's going to cost Tesla like $20,000 to build this car. So if the vehicle lasts 1,000,000 miles, that's like 2 cents a mile for the amortization versus $1 a mile for the Waymo. And then it's going to be much more efficient than the Waymo vehicle. So you're going to end up with a total cost per mile of maybe 10 cents a mile for the Tesla robotaxi vehicle, where Waymo is like $2 a mile. So Tesla will be able to offer rides for, let's say, $1 a mile and make $50, $60, $70,000 a year in profit. Waymo, every mile they drive, they lose money. The more they drive, the more money they lose. They're not going to be able to drive as many miles and so on and so forth. Sam Old says, can you update the stock prediction for today's? I don't make short-term stock price predictions. I think the stock price is low. Robert Hirsch says, what have you predicted with the body of the robotaxi? I have no idea what they're doing with the robotaxi. They've done a really good job of keeping that secret. I think my expectation is it will be extremely lightweight. They're going to use castings front and rear. They may use a single piece casting for the whole vehicle. They're probably going to use lithium iron phosphate battery cells because they have longer life and because although they're heavier, but they're not that much heavier. My gut hunch is the robotaxi is a 50 kilowatt hour pack, that it gets 6 miles a kilowatt hour. The Model 3 currently, the Model 3 gets about 4.5 miles a kilowatt hour. So if they're able to really squeak out efficiencies in this vehicle, maybe they can get to 6 miles a kilowatt hour. You get to 6 miles a kilowatt hour and you have a 50 kilowatt hour pack, you've got 300 miles of range. So ballpark 50 kilowatt hour pack, ballpark 3,000 pound vehicle weight, probably a really, really good coefficient of drag. Maybe they're going to adopt something like my idea about, the windows and doors and they have a different way of opening the thing. They probably need the structure, the crash proof structure for regular vehicles. So that's going to make it cost more, and that's going to add weight. Twitter is going to have its own search engine. I did see pictures of Optimus shown on Twitter. Yes. Jambe says, I've long lost count of the number of Musk companies there are, adding a few more for his family businesses. Elon Musk companies are Tesla, SpaceX, Boring Company, Neuralink, and Twitter. OpenAI is a nonprofit that Elon founded or participated in founding, I think, but he no longer is associated with OpenAI. I think that's where Karpathy came from, OpenAI. Starlink is a spin-off of SpaceX. It's still within SpaceX. It may be that Tesla's going to spin off some companies. Redwood Materials is not a Tesla company. That's JB. Here's his name. JB Straubel has a company called Redwood Materials. I don't think there's any other Elon companies now. Let's see. James Brakeson says China sales down significantly from last quarter. I think the sales in October, I think they've shifted their sales. So first of all, don't focus on sales in China. Production is what matters. They're going to sell every car they make for a long time. And people ask this question about demand. The global fleet is 2 billion vehicles. Tesla's not even making 2 million vehicles a year yet. They make 2 million vehicles a year. They're doing 0.1% of the entire global fleet. So the idea that there's some sort of demand problem is silly. There's a demand problem for other car companies. Tesla makes the best cars. They make the most efficient cars. They make the most compelling cars. So there's no demand problem for Tesla. When Tesla, let's say when Tesla's making 20 million vehicles a year, that's still only 1% of the global fleet. And you're trying to replace the global fleet in 20 years. So you're still not making enough cars at 20 million vehicles a year. But maybe when they get to 20 million vehicles a year, there might be some sort of demand issue. I don't think so. Why no lawsuits versus Dan O'Dowd? That's Michael. That is a really good question. Why is there no lawsuit versus Dan O'Dowd? They did send the threatening letter to Dan O'Dowd. They didn't sue him. It's possible that he privately stepped back. I don't know. I think there's a chance that they will sue him. I don't know what they're waiting for. Bye, Lito. Did you see the Sandy Monroe interview with My Tesla Weekend where Sandy actually said Nicole is probably a big surprise winner? I do not watch My Tesla Weekend. My Tesla Weekend insulted me on his channel, called me a creep, and has not apologized for that, and hasn't really offered an explanation for why he did that. I mean, I know what the underlying story is, and I think he's got a personality problem. So I'm not particularly interested in watching My Tesla Weekend. Sandy Monroe, I love Sandy Monroe, just to be clear. He says a lot of things. Nikola Semi is going to be in serious trouble when Tesla Semi comes out, but there's room for both. As far as I understand it, Nikola Semi is not really a Nikola manufactured vehicle. They're just rebadging some other electric vehicle, but Semi is going to be better. Now, if their Semi is better than diesel semis, they'll still sell some. But, because Tesla isn't going to make enough semis to take over the entire market. When will my Neuralink Bluetooth to my robocar so I can think my destination? Good question. You don't need to think it. The car will know where you're going anyway. The car is going to anticipate your preferences. Let's say they still offer the $35,000 Tesla, but it comes with a contract. You need to pay back the difference by putting your robotaxi into the network. I don't know what their method's going to be. I'm going to have to wear protective gear to have an interview with James Down and Andre Carpathia. Hard hat, at least. Why? Yeah, Sandy's always talking about Fleer. Sandy has some great. I love Sandy. I've talked to Sandy now 5 times in my life. I think I talked to him at the Gigafactory at least once. I talked to him at the 5 Bar in Austin once or twice. I talked to him twice at the what's this wall color? This is my oldest child's room. My oldest child who no longer lives here. This is her room. This is the color that she chose. I don't remember exactly how this happened, but she still likes it. There will be a Gigafactory in Mexico, maybe eventually. I don't know. How many semis will we deliver to Pepsi December 1? I'm going to guess it's like, somewhere less than 10. If Tesla cars end up lasting 20 or 30 years, the demand could dry up. No, you're missing the point, Phil. Phil says if Tesla cars end up lasting 20 or 30 years, the demand could dry up. No, if Tesla produces 20 million cars a year for 20 years, that's 400 million cars. The global fleet is 2 billion. Even if each car serves 5, takes place of 5 cars, then you've effectively replaced the global fleet. But then the problem is because they've lowered the cost of transportation so much, they're going to increase demand for transportation. They're going to juice the economy. The economy is going to get better. I don't think Sandy's a booze hound. He'll have a drink. My time with Sandy Monroe, I never saw him drunk. I thought he was completely responsible and friendly and great. John Bay says, okay, kids, they've eliminated image processing meant for making a pretty picture. Removing filters increases range of signal they can capture. What happens there is the cameras came with this image signal processing chip that would take the photons that come in and convert that into an image that human eye reads well. And there was some information loss in that. And they figured, and there's some slowdown in that. So they figured out, they get better information if they go with raw photon count. They just read the photons coming in. They get better information. They get more complete information, and they let the neural nets process that information instead of the image signal processing. And it reduces the amount of time it takes so that the car responds quicker to what happens outside. Powerball's 1.9 billion. Okay, I guess I gotta go buy Powerball. Powerball, get me a Powerwall. So let's talk about why Twitter. Okay, so I see Hill 2007 brings up Twitter. Um, there's a lot of advantages to Elon buying Twitter. Number one, we're going to have a free speech platform. That's important. Number two, the advertising model is obviously vulnerable. It's not just Twitter that's facing advertising shortfalls. A lot of companies are facing advertising shortfalls. YouTubers are we're making less money on YouTube. If you don't know that, we are making less money on YouTube. Um, I'm getting fewer views because there's more YouTubers competing for the same eyeballs. People are watching less YouTube because people were trapped in their homes for a while and now they're free and they're finding other things to do. So people are watching less YouTube. They're doing other things. Apparently, they're spending more time on Twitter, bashing Elon. But advertising has declined for a variety of reasons. So a lot of YouTubers are making less money. I'm fine. Don't panic. I'll be okay. I do appreciate any support on the locals platform on Patreon or as a YouTube channel member. That does help buffer the lost income from YouTube advertising. I'm probably down about half on the YouTube ad revenue. I'm probably down about half. And I think Stephen, Mark Ryan, and Rob Maurer would probably tell you about the same thing. So, but we make money in other ways, like Jordan Giesecke, the limiting factor, he relies primarily on Patreon support. So advertising, so he's shifting Twitter from an advertising reliant revenue stream to other revenue streams that'll be better. He's also going to allow, now it looks like they're going to allow long form video that will allow Twitter to monetize. Creators like me can put videos on Twitter and monetize them. Like right now, if I make a video on Twitter, I don't make any money from it. I don't really care that much, but if you're going to make a better platform where I can speak more freely and I'll have a comparable audience, then I will probably do videos on Twitter and see how that goes. I like my locals platform. By the way, in the description below, there's a link to my locals platform, to my Patreon, and to my YouTube to join the YouTube channel. Please consider supporting me on any of those platforms. The locals platform, I tend to do more politically oriented content. On this platform, I tend to focus on Tesla and SpaceX in particular. Yeah, so Nigel says there's lots of Teslables on YouTube, similar content being put out there at the same time. Yeah, I mean, look, Farzad comes along. I love Farzad. Farzad's taken some eyeballs. Dave Lee's great. I love Dave Lee. He's taken some eyeballs. Rob's taken some eyeballs. Stephen Mark Ryan's. I mean, honestly, Stephen Mark Ryan are the same. We have almost the same opinion on everything. He's just better looking, younger, and funnier. So he's going to take some views. He's going to take some views. So just to be clear, the reason I do this, okay, obviously I like getting paid, but the reason I do this, the thing that got me making YouTube videos was I feel like I have a different perspective and I'm able to explain things in a different way than other people do. So Rob Maurer has his take on things and Dave Lee has his take on things and Stephen Mark Ryan has, and I just explain my take is different. I think my napkin math models are unique. I don't think anybody does the napkin math models quite the way I do. Stephen Mark Ryan's close. James Stevenson does these incredibly detailed models. Gali from Hyperchange, he did these incredibly detailed models. Bob Maurer's models are more detailed. Dave is more like talk, and less. He doesn't really do models in the same way that I do. So I think I'm offering perspective, and then sometimes there's a story that's law related, and I can offer a legal perspective because I'm a now retired lawyer, but I was a lawyer for many years. So I just think that there's, different members of us. And then Alexandra's got a new channel. She's appearing on some channels and she has her experience in the finance industry. Gary Black doesn't really have a YouTube channel, but he has his perspective. And I think Gary Black and I have very different perspectives. And I think it's valuable to the audience, to you. I think my advice to you is get different perspectives. And I should be having this week, I'm hoping to have Ross Gerber on. I want to do some interviews where I bring people on my channel. Somebody mentioned doing collaborations. I love Farzad. Farzad offers a different perspective. Joe Justice offers a different perspective. I genuinely love Farzad. I met Farzad in Austin. He gave me a big hug. Warm guy. He's very welcoming. I like all these guys. Not all of them. I don't like My Tesla Weekend. And I'm not so sure about Lars from Best. I'm trying to remember which. I don't know if it was Lars. There was one channel that bought into too many lies about Lucid Motors. So I don't remember exactly which one. And what's the guy's name? Dylan. Dylan and I have disagreed on occasion. But I have these napkin models that you guys have seen. 3 terawatt hours of batteries, $500 kilowatt hour. That's 1.5 trillion in revenue. It's that simple, right? And then I did a more detailed model. Check my channel. I did that video recently, and I have more detailed versions of that model, a more detailed version of that model or versions of that model that my Patreon locals and YouTube channel members can see. YouTube channel members, you have to be exclusive content level to see them. The locals platform and Patreon, any supporter can see them, including my spreadsheet. Um, so I want to test my napkin math model. I feel like I've never been challenged on my napkin math model. So I believe Ross Gerber's coming on my channel this coming week. Maybe it was next week. And then I'm hoping to get James Stevenson on, Mayor Thacker maybe come on. I'm going to try to get a few different people who do their own modeling of Tesla and get their feedback on, what am I getting wrong in my napkin math models? Because my napkin math models, you get these crazy numbers, right? Like if you're going to do 1.5 trillion in revenue, because it's 3 terawatt hours times 500 kilowatt hours, $500 a kilowatt hour, you just get 1.5 trillion in revenue. Just to be clear on this, Tesla's revenue in the last 4 quarters is somewhere less than $80 billion. So if Tesla's going to go from $80 billion in revenue to $1.5 trillion in revenue, that's a pretty big jump in the size of the company. And that's probably going to be a pretty big jump in the size of the stock. So I want some pushback from people. Like, is $500 a kilowatt hour too high? Do you think they're not really going to make 3 terawatt hours? What is a fair number? I think $500, just to be clear, I think $500 a kilowatt hour is low. And I think 3 terawatt hours might be low. I think Tesla might end up doing more than 3 terawatt. This is 3 terawatt hours of products. In other words, Tesla makes, let's say, 1 terawatt hour of batteries, and CATL makes a terawatt hour of batteries, and LG Chem makes a terawatt hour of batteries, and Panasonic makes some batteries, and altogether, Tesla ends up at somewhere around 3 terawatt hours of batteries that go in products that they sell. And if you go into my detailed model that I did for locals and Patreon and exclusive content YouTube channel members, you'll see that almost every product that Tesla sells for more than $500 a kilowatt hour. The one that's closest, Megapack, and Megapack will probably end up being less than $500 a kilowatt hour. But some of the products, like solar panels, there are no kilowatt hours in a solar panel. Solar roof tiles, there's no kilowatt hours. So you combine those with Powerwall. Now, Powerwall on its own is about $1,000 a kilowatt hour. You add in the solar, you go up. Bot is a 2.3 kilowatt hour pack. So at $500 a kilowatt hour, that'd be $1,000 for a bot. Bot's gonna be way more than, even though I think they're gonna get manufacturing cost of bot low, it's gonna be way more than $1,000 for a bot. So if bot is $10,000 on a 2.3 kilowatt hour pack, that's $5,000 a kilowatt hour or $4,000 a kilowatt hour. So when you put that together, so I want to get some pushback from people. I'm looking for people to come on my channel. No, Phil says, I thought they were aiming for $100 a kilowatt hour. $100 a kilowatt hour is Tesla's cost for the battery cells. They're actually aiming for $70 a kilowatt hour on the 4680, and maybe $40 or $50 a kilowatt hour on the lithium iron phosphate cells. That's the cost of creating the cell or buying the cell. Then you got to put the cell in a pack. Then you got to put the rest of the product around it, and then you sell it. So if you sell, my favorite example is imagine you're selling a Tesla Model 3 that has a 60 kilowatt hour battery pack, and it costs $36,000. Really costs $48,000, right? It's $48,000 for the base Model 3, and that has a 60 kilowatt hour pack. So that's about $800 a kilowatt hour. Now, I just made up my example, a $30,000 Model 3 at $60 kilowatt hours, and you get $500 a kilowatt hour. So Phil says, if solar is the future, why doesn't Tesla build huge solar farms instead of doing buybacks? I actually think there's a strong chance that Tesla's going to build huge solar farms in the future. I'm not sure that they want to be in that business, but it really is a good fit with Megapack. Oh, Alexandra, I think I'm going to have you on. I think I'm going to have Alexandra on to challenge my napkin math. I think Alexandra just volunteered to come on my channel and push back on the napkin math. We're going to do napkin math on the battery revenue model, dollars per kilowatt hour. We're going to do napkin math on the robotaxi fleet. Robotaxi story simple, 10 million robotaxi fleet that Tesla owns. Leave out everything else. Leave out everybody else's robotaxi vehicles. In other words, I put my Model 3 in the fleet. We're not including that. We're leaving out Tesla Energy. We're leaving out everything else. Just a 10 million robotaxi fleet. Each robotaxi makes $50,000 in profit a year. This is probably an underestimate. That's $500 billion in gross profit. Call it $350 billion in net profit. Give it a 30 price earnings ratio, and you're at a $10 trillion market cap. Right now, we're at like a $700 billion market cap. So that's like a 15x. Tesla stock's trading like $4,000 a share at that point. Alexandra, I think you're it. I think we're going to have to do this. KB Homes building smart homes in California. You're going to see, I genuinely think that one of the things that's going to happen is you're going to start to see new homes built. Every new home is going to be built with a solar roof. It's not going to make sense to build a new home without a solar roof, and that's coming really soon. It really doesn't make sense to build a new home without a solar roof. Really, we should start to see building codes requiring solar roof on every new home. I think that is happening in some places. Mike Buchanan says finish FSD first. Tesla doesn't do one thing at a time. They're doing it all at once. You will wipe that smirk with her napkin. I like it. I'm way off on total addressable market. Total addressable market for robotaxis or for battery powered products? The robotaxi market, so let's just deal with the robotaxi market. I don't know if that's what you mean by the total addressable market. There are 2 billion vehicles in the global fleet. If 10 million robotaxis doing 5 times as much work as a regular car is 50 million vehicles, that's not even a dent in the global fleet. So I think long run, you're going to see 100 million. This is the second step of the robotaxi models. You go from 10 million vehicles making $50,000 profit. You go to 100 million vehicles making $20,000 a year in profit. And now it's a $2 trillion net gross profit. It's a $1.3 trillion net profit. And you get to, I don't know, $50 trillion market cap. And you roll solar into 30-year mortgage, it's cheap. Yeah, I mean, Jordan of Limiting Factor thinks 1.5 terawatt hours of 4680 batteries in 2030. Yes, but they're going to be using other batteries too. CATL is ramping up their production of batteries. LG Chem is ramping up their production of batteries. Panasonic is ramping up their production of batteries. Tesla's going to make a crazy amount of megapacks. They're going to make a crazy amount of power walls. They're going to deploy a crazy amount of solar. The 2030 numbers, it's going to be the battery usage in 2030 is probably going to be at least 2/3 for Tesla energy and 1/3 for vehicles. Because a terawatt hour of batteries if you do 20 million vehicles with an average battery pack of 50 kilowatt hours, which I think is where we're heading in the future. I mean, maybe they'll be larger than that, but just 20 million vehicles at 50 kilowatt hour pack, I think that gets you to that 1 terawatt hour. And the bulk of the vehicles are going to be smaller battery packs. The Cybertruck's going to have a bigger battery pack. The Model S and X have bigger battery packs, but those robotaxi vehicles are going to have smaller battery packs. They're going to be crazy efficient. Mark Plot says Tesla will build next car for $18,000 and sell for $24,000. I don't think so. I think that next car is going to be better than that. Boxable is doing great. See Ellie in Space YouTube piece. I don't watch Ellie. That's a long story. I don't necessarily trust her judgment on whether Boxable is doing great. I'll just ask you this, Mark. Mark Potocznik brings up Boxable. Have they sold a product to a customer yet? Has anybody received a Boxable in their backyard in California yet? I don't know. What was the cost for that unit? I don't know. Alexandra, are you going to get a Boxable in your backyard? You got room in your backyard for a Boxable. You should get one back there. Start Airbnb-ing it. I'll come stay in your Airbnb. Total Fleet is not only utility, sport driving, weekend cars, classic cars, etc. Did I sell my X? No, I decided to keep my X at least for now. I was going to trade in my Model X Plaid for a 2020 Model Y or 20. Yeah, it was a 2020 Model Y long range. And Tesla's. Oh, thank you, Hal. Thank you for your support. Anybody wants to give me a super sticker or a super chat? I really appreciate any support people give me. Somebody gave me a $5 super. Somebody gave me a super chat before. What was that? Thank you, Noah Farrell. I didn't thank you before. Thank you. I will come anyway. Of course I will. So, what's the cost of that unit? That's what she said. No, so Boxable told the story that it was $50,000 for a Boxable, and the reality is, with the supply chain increases, I'm sure they're really selling them for $60,000 or $70,000. And then on top of that, you've got to put the concrete pad down, and then you've got to do all the plumbing and everything, and it really ends up being $150,000 when you're done with it, I think. And then I don't even know if they're making a profit at that level. Yeah, I'm in a good mood today. Why wouldn't I be in a good mood today? When am I not in a good mood? I think I'm always in a good mood when I do the live streams. Hugo says, hope Cybertruck will have the 4680s when it comes out. We need the range of 500 miles. I think people are overestimating the need for 4680s for range. The Tesla Semi is going to have 500 miles of range with 2170 cells. The advantage of the 4680 isn't just like energy density or whatever. The real advantage of 4680 ultimately is manufacturing cost. That if you can and minimizing the complexity, because if you can manufacture the 4680s for lower dollars per kilowatt hour, and then you can assemble the pack for less money because you have fewer parts, right? Because instead of having 4,400 battery cells for a 2170 pack, you have 828 for a 4680 pack. The complexity of manufacturing the battery pack is less. So there's two ways in which you're saving money. I did get a bit of a grin hearing that Airbnb homes are renting to charge your BEV at their house. Okay. I don't know if Boxable is a pyramid scheme. I think that's a stretch. I think it's a startup, and I don't know how much cash they have on hand. They're probably still losing money. Oh, thank you, James. Thank you for your support. James says, here's for your Cybertruck fund. Another contribution. Thank you. If you watch the All In Pod, I've started watching the All In Pod every week. Really good conversations, and they are saying that it's going to be really hard for startup companies to raise capital now. So if you have a startup and you're not making a profit, and you need to raise capital because interest rates are up, because government bonds are paying 4%, let's say, and corporate bonds are decent corporate bonds are paying high rates. An investor has to see a really, really high rate of return in the future. And I don't know that Boxable's profit story is that strong. So they may, I haven't looked, just to be clear, I like Galliano Tiramani, who's the COO of the company. I've interviewed him at least once. I'm hoping to go visit their factory next time. I think I'm going to Vegas next year in November. No, I don't think Tesla's going to advertise on Twitter. Well, you want to be on the top of what? So I think, anyway, a lot of these startups are going to have trouble raising funds. So if you don't have a big cash, so like Rivian is in a really good spot because they have a big cash pile. Lucid's in trouble because they don't have the cash pile. I've been saying this for a while about Lucid. They're in trouble because they don't have the cash pile. Rivian has a big cash pile. They're safe for a while. I don't know what kind of cash pile Boxable has. It's going to be a challenge. Yeah, I mean, Elon's got 100 million followers. Anytime he says something about Tesla, he gets a huge response. So I don't think and they don't need ads because the cars are just that good. It's funny. I'm selling this house, and I had a guy. Realtors came to the house today to sell the house. One of them was driving a Model Y. The last buyer who showed up was driving a Hyundai Ioniq 5. Interesting. That's an electric Hyundai, and they like it. Was there another Tesla? I think I saw another. They've been seeing. They were saying how they're seeing Teslas all day. Thank you, Hugo. Thank you so much for the support. I really appreciate it. The new SpaceX Starbase video was good. New SpaceX Stars? I don't think I saw that. There was a video. Tesla released a video of Optimus. They did a video about building actuators, the little motors that are going to run the Optimus robot. That was kind of cool. Cybertruck fund, not baby mama fund. The baby mama expenditure will be next spring, I think. Yeah. Tesla minivan. I don't think it's. I think people are caught up in this. BB says, I want a Tesla minivan. I think people are caught up in this concept. We need to recognize, just like the iPhone changed what a phone was. I mean, really, the handspring Treo, Palm Treo kind of changed what the phone was, but the iPhone changed what we think of as a phone. We went from flip phones to, this kind of phone. So we have this, like, the form factor of cars is based on there being a human in the driver's seat. And a robo-taxi world, there's no human in the driver's seat, so the entire form factor can change. So I think people are too caught up in the idea of like a minivan. Like, a minivan is a form factor that's based on there's a driver in the front. And I think we're going to see some very different form factors once. I think I have real strong faith in Franz von Holzhausen, who's the Tesla designer, and Elon and Drew Baglino and Lars. And I think they've got They have their own vision for what the form of that next vehicle is going to be, and I think it might be a surprise. Um, Twitter could be a good place to hire talent. I don't know. They released a behind the scenes video of Starbase. I don't know if I saw that. Uh, Not going to comment on that one. SpaceX Starship booster launch. Yes, somebody at the NASA supposedly said that they thought that SpaceX Starship's test launch, the test orbital launch, would be in early December 2022. I'm not putting a lot of stock in that. I mean, we're in early November now. The idea that they're going to have that launch in a month, I think, is a little bit of a stretch. But I am planning on going to Starbase when they get close to launch, and I'm going to stay there for a couple of weeks. And I believe I have somebody to stay with in Port Isabel. Uh, Thank you, Hal. Um, Mark Mumford Munsley says, I think Tesla will make a state skateboard and let third parties do the customizing. I don't think so. I see the vision going forward for Teslas. They're going to make vehicles, and every vehicle comes with FSD, and you have to pay extra for the FSD. And maybe, I think they sell a lot of these robotaxi vehicles to fleets, or they operate their own fleet. SpaceX YouTube. All right, I'll take a look for that. Uh, all right. So what else? I wanted to talk about SpaceX really quick. So I saw the Falcon Heavy launch. I don't know if I talked about that last week. There was a Falcon Heavy launch. I've heard that there's going to be 3 Falcon Heavy launches in January. Falcon Heavy launch dates tend to flex, but there were supposed to be 4 Falcon Heavy launches this year. I think the other 3 got pushed into January. There's still a rumor that one of them might happen in December, but I don't think so. So Falcon Heavy launches are cool because you get to see 2 boosters come back and land at Canaveral, and I got to watch that. I think it's really interesting. See, normally night launches are cool because you get it's like brighter. It stands out against the black sky or the dark sky more than it stands out against the blue sky. I thought the Falcon Heavy launch was pretty cool. And when you're standing in Jetty Park, it's a 14-story building that comes and flies back and lands. You can see it. It's not just an orange dot. You can see the booster coming back and landing, even from, we're probably 5-6 miles away from the landing site. I think that Starship at Boca Chica is going to be better because there's a lot more unobstructed views. So the spot in Port Isabel, where I think I might be watching from, it's not as Rocket Ranch has an even closer viewing location, although it's so close you're actually a little nervous. But the Port Isabel location, I think, is a good location. It's about 5 miles away. It's a good view, and there's really an unobstructed view. Elon has a boxable. There is a boxable at Starbase in Boca Chica Village that Elon does not live in. I think Elon said that they use it for guests, or they use it. Somebody else told me that Elon uses it to store stuff. The fact that the one he has is a cool product. Keep in mind they spent a lot of money making that prototype. That doesn't mean that Elon didn't buy the boxable. I think they gave it to him. Any news on Starship launch? Oh, so right now my plan is not to rent an Airbnb. I don't think it's likely that I'm gonna pull together like an Airbnb like group home thing. Someone reached out to me who has a place in Port Isabel, which is a spot near South Padre Island. He has a great viewing location. I think he said that Everyday Astronaut stays in the neighborhood as well. He's offered me a place to sleep, and I was planning on going to Rocket Ranch and sleeping in my car. They have a really good viewing location, but Rocket Ranch is sort of out of the way. I recommend Rocket Ranch, by the way. Just to be clear, I recommend Rocket Ranch, but Rocket Ranch is out of the way. So it's kind of like a remote location. I think it's going to be a great community. It's going to be great hanging out with people at Rocket Ranch, but I do the crazy Bezos laugh. I don't know the crazy Bezos laugh. No. So I don't think SpaceX bought the boxable. I think it was given to them. So I'm sorry, getting back to this. So let's see. So and other update, I started moving. I've got a little personal story. I'm going to get in a little personal story here for a second. So I moved a bunch of stuff from this house to my new townhome that I'm leasing in Cape Canaveral. And I had a bunch of stuff, and I had heavy furniture, so I rented a trailer from U-Haul and hooked it up on my Model X, and there was a little bit of adventure making sure my Model X was ready for it, but I got that done. And I towed the trailer from Canaveral, or from Merritt Island, down to here in Boca Raton. And then I paid 2 guys through U-Haul to come and load up the trailer, and that went smooth. And I had hired also 2 guys to show up in Cape Canaveral to help me unload the trailer, and we are supposed to be there at 4 o'clock. I call at 3 o'clock to make sure they're coming. Nobody answers my call. Nobody replies to my texts. I unload my car first. It's like 4:05. Nobody's coming. So I said, the heck with it. Somebody called me at some point and said they're running an hour late. And I needed to get the trailer back. I had somewhere to go. And I started unloading the trailer myself. Now, 5 or 6 months earlier, I moved all the stuff from my previous rental into this place with help. And I was exhausted. This time, I unloaded this heavy furniture myself in about an hour, and I wasn't even winded, and it wasn't that hard. Now, I've been going to the gym. I went to the gym this morning. I've been going to the gym almost every day for more than a year. I've mostly been doing cardio, but I started doing more strength training, and apparently it paid off. Um, yeah, I don't. No, this is no strike at Ellie. I don't watch Ellie's channel. It's a personal thing. We have a relationship that went south, and no, not trying to cast any shade on her. I can't watch her channel. I avoid Ellie content. I don't follow her on Twitter. I don't follow her on Instagram. I don't follow her YouTube channel. I try not to watch it. It's a personal story. I don't want to get into the details, but I can't watch Ellie anymore. I think she has a good channel. I'm not trying to cast shade on her. I just don't watch it. So I appreciate people commenting on it, but because of the nature of our relationship, I can't watch that. Amy Neiman says Falcon Heavy launch was awesome. A night launch would be cool too. Yeah. Hi, Amy. I'm a big fan of Amy Neiman. She's in the chat. How many push-ups? I don't do push-ups at the gym. I do like a bench press machine. I do like shoulder presses. Sometimes I use dumbbells. I usually use the machines now. A friend of mine told me to stop doing free weights and start doing the machines because they're safer. Yeah, please check out that. I'm not wearing. This is a t-shirt for selling houses. This is a golf shirt for wearing houses. I didn't wear one of the t-shirts today. It's a little more complicated than that, Mumford, but thank you. So let's just see here. All right. Well, we're about at an hour. And I think I'm going to wrap up early today. I just wanted to get this video out. I like doing a weekly live stream. Did I cover everything? There's something else I wanted to talk about with Tesla. I don't know. Anyway, Alexandra, you're on notice that we're going to do a video where you're going to take apart let's just do just really quick, the napkin math models. I covered the battery revenue model, 3 terawatt hours, $500 a kilowatt hour, $1.5 trillion in revenue. I think that's a massive understatement. And that leads to, like a $10 trillion share price or something like that. Take that away. Robotaxi model, 10 million robotaxi fleet, $50,000 a year in gross profit per vehicle. That's $500 billion a year in gross profit, $375 billion a year in net profit, times the 30 price earnings ratio. That's another $10 trillion market cap. And that leaves out everything. That leaves out Tesla Energy. That leaves out selling vehicles, all that stuff. And then the third napkin math model is bot. 100 million bots sold for. Each bot is doing, let's say, $50,000 a year in work. So Tesla produces a bot and leases it out, or how much revenue does that generate? You can come up with crazy numbers there. If I run the maths on potential of Tesla leasing semis, I think semi is valuable, but I think the market for semi that's a smaller total addressable market. So semi will be significant, but it doesn't compare to the robotaxi valuation. It doesn't compare. It's a small piece of the overall battery revenue model. It doesn't compare to bot. It's big. It would be a big company. And I swim too. I can swim, but I don't swim. Mumford, don't apologize. The baby crack was funny. I'm not doing the locals platform. I'm not doing the locals video today. I need to get ready because I may have more showings. I know I have a showing in 2 hours. So I want to keep ready for doing my selling this house. Hopefully I'm going to get this house sold in the next week. And then I've got that off my plate. Not sold, closed, but like get a contract, get this house sold the next week and move on. By the way, this is, if you want to Google it, if you're thinking about buying a house in South Florida, 12345 River Falls Court. I don't live here anymore, just to be clear. So if you're looking for me, you're the bad guys, you're coming to get me. I don't live here anymore. I'm in Cape Canaveral, not far from Cherry Down Park. So come down to Cherry Down Park and look for me. I'll be on the beach. But this house, 12345 River Falls Court. Look it up. It's listed for $1.1 million. I think that's actually slightly below its real market value. So this house should move. 5 bedrooms, 3 baths, swimming pool in the backyard, lake view, 3-car garage, brand new roof, brand new air conditioning, largely remodeled. Pretty much everything's remodeled. So please check it out. And I think it's gonna be a total of 6 showings this weekend so far. So we're looking good. It's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 River Falls Court. River Falls is one word. So look up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 River Falls Court in Boca Raton, Florida. It's a gated community. If you're thinking of coming in here to get me, it's a guard gated community. Great schools, Water's Edge Elementary Schools on the same property as the neighborhood. West Boca High is across the street. Great programs at West Boca High. Loggers Run Middle School, great middle school. These are like Boca Raton generally has the best schools in South Florida, best public schools in South Florida. So highly recommended. You know, anybody who's looking for a home in South Florida, tell them to look up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 River Falls Court. Have them call me, email me, whatever, and I'd love to have anybody come take a look at the house. 1.1 million dollar list price, very very competitive price. So please check it out. All right, thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you all next week. And thank you to the moderators and